You were born with something no one could see, but everyone tried to control. Your mind, a perfect, unfiltered, limitless machine. You didn't arrive with fear. You weren't wired for doubt. You didn't show up thinking you weren't enough. All of that was given to you, passed down like a silent disease from generations too scared to question the system. You didn't choose scarcity. It chose you, through the words of people who were doing their best, but didn't know better. Money doesn't grow on trees. Be grateful for what you have. Don't dream too big. And without realizing it, you accepted those beliefs as truth, but they were never yours. They were never facts. They were never rooted in who you are. They were the beginning of who you were told to become. That's what Bob Proctor understood better than anyone, that the world doesn't raise you to succeed. It programs you to survive. It conditions you to stay in the middle, to settle, to stop questioning. It teaches you to fear judgment more than failure and comfort more than growth. And that's the real enemy, not your circumstances, not your past, not your intelligence, but the program you're still running in your subconscious mind, that invisible code you didn't install, but that now dictates your habits, your expectations, your results. Bob didn't speak about mindset like some motivational catchphrase. He spoke about paradigms, deep-rooted mental patterns that control every outcome in your life. You say you want success. You read books, watch videos, write goals, but then days later, you find yourself sabotaging it all, not because you're weak, but because your paradigm won't allow it, because your identity hasn't caught up with your vision, because the story inside you still says, that life is not for people like me. And here's the real danger. Most people live their entire lives without realizing this. They fight for success with the mind of a slave, bound to beliefs they never agreed to but still obey. They hustle on the surface while the old program runs silently underneath, rejecting abundance every time it comes close. That's why some people can win the lottery and lose it all. That's why others work hard their whole life and never escape mediocrity, because hard work alone is not enough. Discipline without awareness is useless. You're not stuck because you're lazy. You're stuck because you're living by a script someone else wrote. And until you rewrite the script, nothing changes. Bob knew this truth firsthand. He wasn't born rich. He didn't come from success. He was lost, angry, broke, working dead-end jobs with no vision. But the day he picked up Think and Grow Rich, something changed. Not instantly, but deeply. He began to see that wealth wasn't out there. It was in here. That abundance wasn't a matter of effort. It was a matter of identity. And from that moment, he made a decision to reprogram the machine, to question everything he was taught, to unlearn the lies, and more importantly, to teach others how to do the same. Because your future doesn't begin when your circumstances change. It begins when you change what you believe is possible. You've been taught that you need to get more to be more. But Bob flipped that. He said, you must be more first. The world reflects who you are, not what you want. If you want abundance, you must become abundance. If you want wealth, you must see yourself as worthy of it. And if you want change, you must first destroy the idea that you are stuck. You are not broken. You are not late. You are not behind. You are programmed. And that's the best news of all. Because if you were programmed once, you could be programmed again. With intention, with power, with truth. But it starts with awareness. It starts by rejecting the beliefs you inherited and replacing them with ones you choose. Not beliefs based on fear, but on freedom. Not beliefs based on limits, but on expansion. Not beliefs based on what was, but on what can be. So the question now is not whether abundance exists. It always has. The question is, are you willing to let go of the story that says it's not for you? Are you ready to stop living by the lies they taught you and start becoming the architect of your own mind? Because the paradigm won't fix itself. The old programming won't quietly disappear. It must be confronted, challenged, rewritten by you. No one's coming to do it for you. Not Bob, not me, not anyone. This is your battle now. And you fight it not with force, but with awareness, with repetition, with truth, every single day, until your mind no longer reflects your past, but your purpose. There's a war happening inside you right now, and most people will never even notice it. A quiet war between who you've been and who you're meant to become, between a version of you shaped by fear, failure, rejection, and a version of you shaped by vision, potential, and belief. This war doesn't take place in the outside world. It doesn't care about your job title, your bank account, or your past mistakes. It happens in the silence, between thoughts, between actions, in the moments no one sees but you feel deeply. And unless you learn to recognize it, to hear it, it will rule you from the shadows for the rest of your life. This is the war Bob Proctor spent his life explaining. A war between your conscious mind and your subconscious programming. Your conscious mind sets goals. It dreams. It writes affirmations and watches motivational videos. But your subconscious mind, the part that was programmed from the age of 0 to 7, doesn't respond to dreams. It responds to repetition. It responds to identity. It responds to the paradigm. That's why you can want to be rich and still live broke. That's why you can want change and still stay the same. Because if your subconscious doesn't believe in the new story, it will sabotage you every single time, quietly, effectively, and without mercy. And the hardest part? It doesn't feel like sabotage. It feels normal. It feels safe. You procrastinate and call it timing. You self-sabotage and call it bad luck. You shrink your dreams and say you're being realistic. But none of that is truth. It's your paradigm keeping you exactly where it wants you, inside the same loop, repeating the same patterns, expecting different results. Bob Proctor said it clearly. Your subconscious mind doesn't care whether what you tell is true or false. It will accept anything you repeat long enough. That means you've been programming it every single day without knowing it. Every complaint, every excuse, every time you say, I can't afford it. Every time you think, that's not for me, you've been planting seeds. And now you're living in the garden of your own words. But here's the most powerful truth of all. Just as you were programmed once, you can reprogram yourself again. You can override the old instructions, not in one day, not by watching one video or reading one quote, but by becoming intentional with every single input. By feeding your mind new commands with consistency and emotion. By visualizing who you want to be every morning and every night until your subconscious has no choice but to believe it. Repetition is the key, not motivation, not hype, but daily discipline. Bob called it a repetition of new ideas, and it's how he turned a lost man into a millionaire and then into a legend. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to replace the old mental files. You need to stop downloading stories that don't belong to you. You need to interrupt the inner dialogue every time it says you're not enough. Because the truth is, you are already enough. You've always been. But your mind is still using an outdated operating system that wasn't built for abundance. It was built for survival. And survival doesn't care about dreams. It only cares about comfort, about familiarity, about safety, even if it costs you your future. That's why most people stay stuck. Not because they're weak, but because they never update the system. They keep trying to run a new life on old code. But Bob knew you can't do that. You can't step into abundance with a scarcity identity. You can't create wealth with a poverty mindset. You can't expand your life with a contracted vision of who you are. You have to start from within. You have to dig deep, question everything, and rewire your self-image from the ground up. This is the real work, the invisible work, the kind of work no one sees, but everyone feels. It's not sexy. It's not fast, but it's powerful beyond measure. And it begins the moment you stop treating your mind like an accident and start treating it like a masterpiece in progress. Transformation doesn't happen in a moment of hype. It doesn't happen when you feel motivated for 5 minutes after a video. It happens in the moments no one sees, in the silence, in the boredom, in the decision to act when everything inside you wants to stay the same. That's where the new you is built, not on stage, not in front of a crowd, but in the dark corners of your routine. That's where the paradigm is either reinforced or rewritten. And Bob Proctor knew this better than anyone. He didn't teach people to chase motivation. He taught them to create a new self-image, to construct a new version of themselves from the inside out. Because if your self-image doesn't match your vision, your mind will always pull you back to the old identity, no matter how bad you want to grow. That's why the real work begins not with action, but with belief. You must start by seeing yourself as the person you want to become. Not someday, not maybe, but now. You must close your eyes and rehearse it. Feel it, believe it with such intensity that your subconscious begins to accept it as fact. Visualization is not a game. It's not wishful thinking. It's the language of the mind. And when you repeat that image enough with emotion, with clarity, your paradigm begins to shift. Slowly, reluctantly, but it shifts. And once it happens, the outer world begins to reflect the inner shift. Because everything outside of you, your money, your relationships, your opportunities, is a mirror of who you believe you are. You cannot attract something that you do not believe belongs to you. And this is why abundance isn't about effort. It's about alignment. It's about being in harmony with the life you want to create. That doesn't mean you sit back and wait. It means you take action, but from a place of identity, not from a place of fear. You act like the person who already has it. You speak like them. You walk like them. You decide like them. And eventually, your reality bends to match your frequency. Bob didn't change because someone handed him success. He changed because he committed to becoming a different man. He read the same book hundreds of times. He wrote his goals over and over. He repeated affirmations until they became his dominant thoughts. He surrounded himself with new information, new people, new standards. He didn't just want a better life. He became the person who could live it. And that's what you must do. You don't wait for the change. You become the change. So start asking yourself, who am I becoming? What does that version of me believe, think, do? What do they tolerate? What do they focus on? What do they allow into their mind? Because every decision you make is a vote for the kind of identity you're building. Every time you say yes to your vision and no to the old story, you're laying a new foundation. And the more you stack those decisions, the stronger your new identity becomes. But this process isn't pretty. It's not easy. And it's not comfortable. Because the old paradigm will fight back. It will whisper, this isn't you. You're pretending. Who do you think you are? And you have to face those voices, not run from them. You have to look them in the eye and say, I know who I was, but I know who I'm becoming. That's where the power is. In your ability to hold your new identity long enough for the world to catch up. No one sees that part. They see the success later. They see the confidence, the peace, the wealth, but they don't see the hours spent reprogramming the mind, the days you wanted to give up, the silence, the inner battle. That's what Bob tried to show the world, not just a result, but the real process, the mental labor, the emotional rewiring, the discipline to stay the course when the evidence hasn't arrived yet. So understand this. Becoming your highest self is not a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. It's a war of identity, and every day you choose a side, your past or your future. You are either feeding the old paradigm or planting seeds for the new one. And the more aware you are of that, the more powerful you become. Because abundance doesn't come to you. It comes from you. And the day you fully embody that truth is the day everything begins to change. You've waited long enough. You've doubted yourself long enough. You've lived under the weight of someone else's beliefs, someone else's rules, someone else's version of reality for long enough. This is your moment. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Now. Because the truth is, you will never feel completely ready. The old paradigm will always find one more excuse to delay your transformation. One more reason to stay safe. One more story to keep you small. But something inside you is already awake. That's why you're here. That's why you've made it this far. There's a voice inside you that knows you were meant for more. Not because you're greedy, not because you're selfish, but because you were born abundant. You were born with a purpose that can't breathe in a cage. And that cage, it was never locked. You've just been holding the key the whole time, too afraid to turn it. Bob Proctor didn't change because he got lucky. He changed because he stopped negotiating with his limitations. He stopped giving power to the old voices. He stopped asking for permission to live fully. And instead, he made a decision, a real decision. One that doesn't dissolve when fear shows up. One that isn't conditional. One that says, no more. That's what this moment is for you. A line in the sand. A turning point. A silent promise to yourself that you will never again live beneath your potential. That you will no longer accept the small life offered by the old paradigm. Because now you understand what's really holding you back. And it's not your job, not your past, not your education, not even your circumstances. It's you. Or rather, it's the version of you you've allowed to lead for too long. But that version has served its time. It kept you alive. But it cannot take you where you're going. To reach the next level, you must evolve. You must become the architect of your mind. You must take full responsibility for every thought, every belief, every identity you carry, and consciously choose which ones stay and which ones die today. Because this isn't about abundance anymore. This is about freedom. Mental freedom, emotional freedom, spiritual freedom. The kind of freedom that comes when you no longer outsource your self-worth to the external world. The kind of freedom that radiates from a mind that is no longer at war with itself. That's what Bob taught. That's what he lived. And that's what he left behind. Not just quotes or books, but a blueprint, a path, a challenge. And now it's yours. So stop waiting. Stop hoping. Stop making plans that never start. Burn the backup plan. Delete the old narrative. Write a new one that's so big it scares you. Then become the person who lives it. Not perfectly, not without fear, but with truth, with alignment, with power. Because the greatest gift Bob Proctor ever gave us wasn't information. It was responsibility. The realization that no one is coming to change your life except you. And if you have the courage to do that, to fight the internal war, to rebuild your self-image, to plant new seeds every single day, then one day, not far from now, you'll look around and realize something unbelievable has happened. Your outside world will have changed. Because you did. And in that moment, you'll understand what he meant all along. You were never chasing abundance. You were always becoming it.